Anyway, the one that is the most passive and produces the most income is actually YouTube. I make anywhere between about $5,000 and $8,000 a month from YouTube ads, which definitely could be a full-time income. And I also will say that.
Welcome to the Raw and Real podcast. Are you dreaming of changing your life through opening a business, or are you curious what obstacles entrepreneurs had to overcome on their journey? Then you're in the right place. My name is Agnes and I'm your host. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Raw and Real. Today's guest on the show is Gillian Perkins. She's a serial entrepreneur who teaches aspiring entrepreneurs how to start and grow a profitable online business that allows them to work from home and be successful. Furthermore, she's a best-selling author, a mom, and a very successful YouTuber with currently 500,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on your show.
So I thought we could start with some info that I found on your website, and that is that you started entrepreneurial ventures already as a kid, like lemonade stands. So how come you had already such a drive early on?
Oh, I don't know. For me, I think I was just like very interested in really marketing. I didn't know it was marketing back then, but marketing was really interesting to me and seeing like what people were interested in and if they wanted to buy something from me. But of course, I was also motivated, as I think most kids are, by I wanted to have money to buy things. As a kid, there's not a lot of different jobs you can do. And so I just wanted to figure out a way. I think what it really is for me is I'm a problem solver and I had this problem. I don't have money. I want a thing. So how do I get the money? And I think for some people who aren't as motivated to solve problems, they would just be like, I don't have the money, what can I do about it? But for me, I was bound and determined to solve that problem. And that meant trying to sell different things, even as a kid.
And what are your parents in general doing? Like, are they also in the entrepreneurial world?
Kind of. My dad is a landscape architect and he's run his own landscape architecture business for my entire life. When he first got out of college, he worked for a couple different companies for a while. But while he loved the work, it didn't really suit him to work for someone else. So he started working for himself and he's never looked back. And now he's actually getting into a retirement age now, definitely an age where he could retire, but he doesn't really want to. He loves what he does. And he's thought about quitting his business because, running a business is a big undertaking, right? And going to work for someone else. But he's told me over and over again, like, I can't see myself doing that. I don't think working for someone else is for me. So he just keeps running his business because that's what he loves doing. And my mom stayed at home my whole life. She was a nurse before she had me, though.
Okay, yeah, wow, that's awesome about your dad, that he's so enthusiastic. I think, that's how it should be for everyone, ideally.
So he's been a big inspiration for me.
So I'm curious, at what age did you start your first really successful business that you grew into a reasonable monthly income?
Yeah, well, I would say all of the businesses I start, not even really businesses, but the little ventures I tried doing when I was a kid, none of them really panned out. None of them made very much money until I was 14 and I was just entering high school. And I started teaching initially just some friends how to play some musical instruments because I played flute and piano myself. And a couple friends reached out to me and asked me to teach them. And I said, I don't know about that. I've never taught anyone. But I mean, they were very persistent and they kept asking me and I was like, fine, I'll try, but I have no idea what I'm doing. But they found my instruction really helpful and they started telling other people that I taught these instruments. And I was like, what am I getting into? I don't know about this. But I just went with it because I didn't have a whole lot going on. I was just in high school. So I thought, I'll try this. And I was very upfront with everyone that I wasn't a trained music teacher or anything like that. But there was a lot of demand, I think, for people who just wanted beginning music instruction. And so that ended up growing into Northwest School of Music, which is a company that I ran for over 10 years and ended up exiting about 4 years ago. But it was a very successful business that supported my family for that entire time.
Wow, already at the age of 14. That's super cool. And when did you really decide to get on YouTube? Like, how did that all started? Because I also heard you mentioning in one of your videos that the first YouTube channel you started didn't go completely as planned and wasn't as successful.
Yeah. So I was first interested in starting a YouTube channel maybe about 6 years ago or so. And it was just because I really liked watching YouTube myself. And I especially liked watching beauty YouTubers. And so I just thought it seemed like a fun job, a fun hobby. I didn't know if I would make any money at it or if it'd be successful at all, but I'm a big dreamer. So I decided to give it a try and it didn't work very well. And mostly it didn't work, I think, because I really had no idea what it took to be a YouTuber, how difficult it was to make videos, how hard I needed to try to make good videos. Not that it is enormously complicated or enormously difficult, but my skill set, my skill set was so lacking, and so the videos I was making were so poor quality in relation to the videos I was watching that I had no idea how to go from where I was to where I needed to be. And so I made videos for a couple of years and they would get a couple hundred views each. And I had a couple take off that went completely viral and got a few 100,000 views. Well, meanwhile, my channel had less than 1,000 subscribers. So that was pretty crazy. But it really showed me the possibility with YouTube and how powerful it potentially could be. That even when nobody knew you existed, you didn't have an audience anywhere, you could still get a lot of exposure, a lot of potentially like traffic to your website. And it was just a really successful like marketing platform. And at the same time, I was continuing to run the music school and I was doing a lot of different kinds of local marketing. I was putting up billboards, I was putting signs around town, I was advertising in the newspaper, stuff like that to try to get students into the music school. And all those things were moderately successful, but they were also very expensive. Meanwhile, I put this video on YouTube, it cost me nothing and it got so much exposure. And if I'd been doing anything with those views, if I'd been promoting anything in the video, then that would have been a whole lot of marketing dollars that I got for free, basically. Anyway, so I kept doing that for a couple of years and then I eventually shut that channel down because it was like, well, this isn't working. And also, especially as it started to work a little bit, I just realized that I didn't feel very comfortable with like the content that I was putting out into the world. It wasn't something that I really wanted to be known for. As much as I kind of liked watching other people's beauty videos, just didn't really align with like what was most important to me, like my values, my highest priorities in life. And so I realized that if I felt awkward about like my friends and family finding out about this, then it probably wasn't the right fit for me. So I shut it down for a year or two and then I started the channel that I run today 3 years ago from today. And that channel, I had a much clearer focus right from the start. I was also much more committed to the channel. I didn't commit for the long run, though. I just said, for the next 3 months, I'm going to post a video every single week and I'm going to work on making these videos as good as I possibly can. And 3 months later, I had hit 1,000 subscribers and the channel was growing really quickly already. And I could tell that it was something that I wanted to stick with.
So with the first channel, you mentioned that you had some hits. So looking back at it from a little bit an analytical perspective, do you know why they were a hit?
Yeah, I do actually. I didn't know at the time. I didn't do it intentionally, but when I looked back on them, it was pretty obvious. I did some keyword research retroactively on a lot of my different videos, and the videos that had taken off, they were videos that had targeted some popular keywords and really fit with the keyword really well. So let me give you an example. The video that did the very best was called "How to Braid Your Hair Behind Your Head." Okay, very simple. And it was a video that was super easy for me to make. It took me less than an hour to make, I'm sure. And the video was only about like 5 or so minutes long. And that was why it was so good because people who wanted the answer to that specific question, how do I braid my hair behind my head? They just wanted a quick tutorial that actually showed them how to do it. And while the video quality on that video is truly horrible, okay, it was a horrible quality video in terms of, how I produced it. It was helpful. I got straight to the point. I showed them how I could braid my hair behind my head in a really useful sort of way. And so there are loads of comments on that video saying, wow, I can finally braid my hair behind my head. This worked for me. And so basically, if there's a keyword that you go after, you want to make a video on a certain topic, figure out what the keyword is people are actually looking for. And then think about this search intent. So what are people looking for if they type in that keyword and make the video that will really satisfy that search intent?
So because you mentioned the keyword, right? So were you then looking for the phrase or which of the keywords were you then focusing on? Was it braid hair or how does it work?
Yeah. So keywords can be anywhere from one word all the way to an entire sentence. Anything that someone might type into Google or might type into YouTube, that is a keyword or a keyword phrase. And so in this case, the keyword phrase was how to braid your hair behind your head, that entire phrase.
And what search tool do you use for your keywords?
Yeah, there are several great ones out there, and I use a few different ones. One of my favorite ones is Google's AdWords Keyword Planner tool, which is a completely free tool that you can, if you just type in AdWords Keyword Planner tool, you'll find it on Google. You have to create an account and you have to give them your credit card information because it's a platform that's actually meant for buying ads. But if you're just using it to research, then it won't cost you anything at all. Um, so that is one of the most powerful ones that I use on a regular basis. But some other great ones that I would recommend as well are vidIQ, TubeBuddy, and Keywords Everywhere. But like I said, there are lots of great keyword planner tools.
And I'm wondering, because you started that YouTube project and it didn't go completely as you wanted to, of course.
Mhm.
So how did you pick yourself up mentally to like do it again and start from 0 subscribers again?
Yeah. Well, it didn't go as I wanted it to, for sure. But the further I got away from that experience, the more I was able to look back on it and see exactly what I had done wrong. In retrospect, I could see that the videos were poor quality. Whereas at the time I was making the videos, I didn't really notice that they were poor quality because I was like too close to the work. So I just wondered, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? But I looked back, I could see why it hadn't worked. And I also studied YouTube and studied the algorithm a whole lot in that break that I took. And I learned a lot about how the algorithm worked. And like I said, I did that keyword research on the videos that had succeeded, and I saw why those videos had been successful. So it made me actually really confident that I could succeed because the more I saw how bad my videos had been in comparison to the videos on other people's channels that had done well, I realized if I can just learn how to make good quality videos, then almost every channel I can find that has good quality videos eventually succeeds. And if I add to that the keyword research element, then this is going to be a slam dunk.
Okay, wow. And I mean, you already hit in the first year, I think 55,000 subscribers. So,
Yeah, uh-huh.
yeah, so what were the key factors that really helped you to get there?
Well, honestly, just those two things that I just shared with you, those were the biggest contributors. Beyond that, I would just say, being really consistent. And there are a whole bunch of other like smaller detail type things that went into it. I share all that in a course that I teach online because there is a lot of detail. But the two main things that if someone just does these two things, it's going to get them the biggest, like play the biggest part in their success is one, doing keyword research to make sure specifically that you're making videos on topics people are interested in, because it doesn't matter how good your videos are. If you're talking about something that nobody cares about at all, then people aren't going to watch your videos, right? And the algorithm won't have anyone to recommend those videos to. And then second of all, you know the topic, so now you need to actually make a good video on that topic so that when someone searches and they watch your video, they keep on watching it, and that tells the algorithm that people like the video, and then the algorithm recommends it to more people. So I guess the other answer to your question there would just be the algorithm. YouTube's algorithm is incredibly powerful, and it's what sets YouTube apart and makes YouTube so special compared to a lot of other platforms like Instagram or Facebook. Is that those platforms, they're not really search engines. They're very much social networks. And it's great for following people and liking their content, but it's not great for discovery, for finding new people. There certainly are some opportunities for discovery on any platform, but YouTube is special because they have those suggested videos that pop up whenever you're watching a video, where YouTube is actively trying to introduce you to new content. And then also, people use YouTube as literally a search engine where they're looking for how to videos or videos on a certain topic. And when someone types in a search term, they can find content from any creator. And this just isn't the same on Instagram or Facebook. Anyway, so in growing my channel in that first year, even though I started at 0 and nobody knew who I existed, it really didn't matter because people were finding my channel just like they find every channel on YouTube.
And how do you stay creative and like keep creating? Because, I think especially when you start out, you have like so many ideas, but then at some point you produce, let's say, 30 videos, and then it's like, how do I keep going? Like,
Yeah, that is a challenge. So I would think there are three parts to this. The first part is before you start, I would highly recommend coming up with a list of 100 video ideas. And I know that might seem like crazy, but
yeah.
if you just keep brainstorming, you'll come up with it. It's not going to take you more than, a couple hours at most.
Are
You
you
might do
sure?
it over the, yeah, yeah, for
Okay.
sure. And you can like look around at other channels that are similar to the channel you want to make to get inspiration for these video ideas. And of course, some of the video ideas will be somewhat similar. And once you think of a topic for a video, you'll be able to come up with like 10 different videos or at least 5 different videos you could make around that topic. So you really only need like 10 to 20 micro topics. So I'm not talking about those big topics that maybe your channel is all about one main topic, like beauty or something like that. But if your channel is all about beauty, you might have this idea, okay, I could do some beauty, like some makeup looks. Okay. And then you could come up with 5 or 10 makeup looks. And then you're like, okay, I could also do hairstyles. So here's a list of 5 or 10 hairstyles. Okay, I could talk about products. So I could talk about my favorite, this type of product, my favorite this type of product, and so on. And so for each different like type of video you come up with, you just need to come up with like 5 or 10 different versions of that video. And so it's pretty easy, I think. But it does take a little bit of time. And definitely you'll probably get stuck at some point along the way. You'll get halfway through and then you'll feel like I'm all out of ideas. But then you'll go and look at some other channels, get some inspiration, and you'll come up with a slew of more ideas. So the reason I recommend doing that is because that way you're not going to get stalled out right near the beginning. You're not going to make like 5 videos and then be like, oh, those were all 5 of my ideas. Now what do I do? And then just stop. Because as soon as you stop making videos, that's when it's really hard to get that momentum back and to start making videos again. So we don't want you to stall out right there. And then the other reason is because if you come up with 100 ideas, then you're going to be able to choose the best of those ideas to make videos of, to like actually produce. And so that way, instead of coming with 5 ideas and being like, okay, I think these 5 ideas are pretty good, instead you're picking the best like 10 ideas out of that 100 ideas. And so it's going to be, you're just going to be pulling from a much bigger, like, idea bank. And so you'll have better ideas because you've come up with more ideas. Anyway, so that's the first part. And then the second part is just this ongoing process of as the months roll on, you're always looking around YouTube, you're always looking on Instagram, you're always looking at blogs you read, anywhere you consume content for ideas for new videos. And whenever you come up with an idea, and this is the most key part of this, whenever you come up with an idea, you write it down. Because if you don't write it down, then you're going to forget it. And chances are next time you come up with an idea, it's going to be the same idea. And so you're not going to be able to move on. So if you write it down, you will remember it and your brain will be able to move on and progress to the next idea. So you'll come up with a huge list of ideas. The last part of it though, and this isn't so much a thing to do as just like something to be aware of, that once you make a lot of videos, like at this point, I've made a few hundred videos on my channel, it does get a little bit tricky to keep coming up with like new good ideas, I would say. And so that is a challenge that I run into today. But 2 things that I do to overcome this is one, to look back on older videos that I made that maybe did well, or I liked the idea of, but I made them long enough ago that they're kind of out of date, or I didn't produce them as well as I could have, and just remake those old videos. Of course, not like word for word. So it's going to be some new information, but you can make a video on exactly the same topic and make a way better video, and new people will see that content. So that's one thing to do. And then the other thing to do is just to, and this is not very specific, but just to like be thinking outside of the box and don't think about like, oh, I only talk about these 3 topics on my channel. And so I've already talked about everything here, but how can you branch out a little bit and pull more things in that still relate, but are a little bit outside of the topics you've been talking about? And the cool thing with YouTube is that the bigger your channel grows and the more successful you get on YouTube, the more you are free to branch out. When you're first starting out, staying super niched in, super focused on one topic is what will really help your channel grow as fast as possible. But as your channel gets older, staying in that little box can actually hinder your channel's growth, and branching out can reach new people.
Okay, thank you. Those are some great tips over there. And I'm also curious, like, when was the moment that you really experienced hockey stick growth for your channel?
Okay. I mean, there honestly wasn't a huge moment like that with this current channel because I went into it with such a strong plan And so, like I said, in those first 3 months, I got about 1,000 subscribers, and it basically doubled. Like my subscriber growth doubled from one month to the next. So I had 2,000, then I had 4,000, then I had 8,000, and so on until I got up to around that 8,000 or so mark. And then I just got 8,000 new subscribers every month. So
Wow.
I got up to 16 and then like 24 and then 32 from there. And it was also slowly growing. So it was 8,000 a month, but then the next month it'd be like 8,500 and then 9,000 and then 9,500 and so on. And then it kind of stabilized right around that 10,000 mark. And ever since I got up to getting 10,000 new subscribers every month, it'll fluctuate a little bit above and below that. So on the lowest months, I'll get 8,000 new subscribers. And on the highest months, I'll get about 20,000 new subscribers.
And when you look back, especially now, like what was the hardest part of your journey so far?
Do you mean specifically with like growing this current YouTube channel or just in general with like building a business?
Just in general, because I know that you have like multiple revenue streams as well with all of your online courses. So I think there's a
Yeah.
lot in general.
So there's one moment that definitely stands out to me as the hardest moment, and that was when I was building the music school, and I had come to the realization that this was definitely not the thing I wanted to do long term. I was sure I wanted to do something else, but it was the thing that was paying my bills. But my focus was not on it. So even though I was like showing up to work every day, and I was the person who was running the business, and I was actively teaching music lessons myself in addition to having quite a few teachers working for me as well, my heart just wasn't in it. And it was really hard for me to keep like staying, just like keep the business running, honestly, when my heart wasn't in it. And partly because of that, I think as we continued to scale, I started running into a problem of scale where our expenses were increasing faster than our revenue was increasing. And so there was a certain point when we had negative cash flow. So we were spending more money every month than we were bringing in. And this was the business that was supposed to be supporting my family. So this was a really tough financial time for me and for the business. And, I can just like, it gives me so much empathy for other people who are in like difficult financial positions. Because while I had been pretty broke at many times before that, I had never had that negative cash flow problem before that. And it was so stressful. And specifically, I just remember how like I was way too close to it. And so because of the problem, I had the stress. And because of the stress, I couldn't see a way out of the problem. And it was just like, I was just like trapped in a corner and I couldn't figure out how to get out. And it was so like stressful and depressing and like gave me so much anxiety. So it was a really tough problem to get out of. But I didn't have anywhere to go but to keep like moving forward and keep trying to figure it out. And I guess I could have like given up and closed the business down. But thankfully I didn't do that because even though I couldn't see a way out, by just taking like one step after another, I slowly got out of it and we got cash flow positive again. And I built the business quite a bit stronger. And then I eventually, by the point that the business was a lot stronger, I had figured out that I was really way more interested in marketing. I'd started a marketing agency and ended up selling the business. So I ended up having like a really positive exit. But that was by far like my darkest business time.
So I can imagine, that at some point it kind of becomes a circle. It's like you have negative cash flow and then your anxiety is increasing because you have so
Hmm.
much responsibility. So like,
Yeah.
how did you really navigate that day by day in order to also not be like paralyzed with the fear, which really doesn't help?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have any great advice here. As like how I navigated it day by day was just not well. I was just like an anxious mess, and I was just like, well, I just have to keep showing up. I mean, it's either this or just like literally shutting everything down. And I think I was so anxious that I didn't even see like the alternative there. Like, oh, I could shut this all down and just like go get a job. Part of it was because I had like contracts. So I had like a lease on the building. And so I didn't like have an easy out. So I was just like, I'm just stuck. I just have to do this. And at the time, that was the worst thing ever. But in retrospect, I guess I'm glad that I was stuck in that position because it meant that I had to figure out a way out of it. I mean, aside from just like literally giving up and declaring bankruptcy, aside from that, like there was just nothing to do aside from keep showing up to work, keep working on bringing new customers into the business, keep working on making more money. And because of that, I slowly found my way out of the hole.
Was it also that you contacted some types of mentors or business owners that could like help you out with brainstorming ideas or
I did contact a few people like that. And I brainstormed a lot of ideas for sure, but I don't remember any specific advice that I got that I felt like was really extremely helpful. I think my biggest advice to anyone who's stuck is just like keep pressing forward. Like things are going to get better if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, even if you cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. Just making that little bit of progress at a time, as long as you're moving forward and not backwards, everything is going to be okay. That next step will always present itself. So even in those darkest times when I had no idea how I was going to get out, I still could see like the next thing to do. Like the next thing to do was launch the new marketing campaign or take on more of the students myself and let a teacher go so that my expenses were a little bit less or something like that. There's always a next step that I saw.
and I'm also curious because you have a lot of passive income streams in general. So what is the one that's like most profitable to you with the least effort, of course?
Yeah. So as far as with the least effort, that makes it a little bit tricky because the one that's the most profitable is not the least effort. Um,
So maybe you
so
can enlighten us on both.
yeah. So the one that is the least effort at this point, the one that's the most like completely passive. And I'll preface this by saying that I don't really believe that there are like magic solutions where, things that take no effort to make money. You're going to have to either invest time or energy or money at some point in the process in order to have like a significant passive income stream. So there are some things that you can do where like you can just buy an investment and it's very little effort from your part, but it's a big, buy-in, and then you'll get the passive income. And then there are lots of things where you can do the work once and then you get the payoff for a long time to come. And so when I think about the one that is the easiest, the most hands off today, that doesn't mean that it was the least work overall. It just means that now it is very passive. And the one that comes to mind there would be the book that I wrote 3 years ago. I wrote a book, I self-published it. And of course, that was quite a bit of work at the time, right? But today it is completely passive. I literally do nothing to promote it. And it brings in between $100 and $200 a month. So it's not an enormous amount of money by any means, but that's with me like not promoting it really at all. That's just people finding it on Amazon and buying it. Um, and in my case, the book that I wrote, it's called Sorted, and it's about like organizing your life and creating structure in your routines. And it really has very little to do with the business that I run today. But if I wrote a book, if I had written a book, or if I did write a book that directly related to my business, then that would also be new customers being introduced to my brand every month, which would be really cool. To not only be earning, a couple $100 every month, but also have new people signing up for my email list and then potentially buying my more expensive products would be creating even more revenue. So that's just a tip. If anyone's interested in writing a book, it is a really good way to get visibility for your business and to attract new leads to your business. Because even though my book doesn't really relate to my business, it still does attract email leads because I had a website set up for the book and people will opt into that email list. I don't have anything to sell them, but they sign up for the newsletters and some free resources that are associated with that book. Anyway, the one that is the most passive and produces the most income is actually YouTube. I make anywhere between about $5,000 and $8,000 a month from YouTube ads. Which definitely could be a full-time income. And I also will say that at least now this is different for every channel for sure. But in my case, once my channel really started to grow, probably within that first year or so, I got up to getting about 500,000 views a month. And so every new video that would come out, it would get a certain number of views, maybe 5 or 10,000. The industry that I'm in, the niche that I'm in on YouTube, that is just like par for the course. No matter what you do, most of the new videos that come out only get 5 to 10,000 views, even like all the most successful YouTubers. But they do really well in search. And so my older videos produce a total of somewhere between 500,000 and 1,000,000 views a month, which is really cool. And so what that means is that since the end of about that first year or so, my ad income has been very stable. It's slowly gone up, but I think I was at about $3,000 a month at the end of the first year. and now it's gone up to about 7,000, but it's taken the last two additional years to get up to that 7,000 mark. But so my point here is that revenue is coming from old videos. Okay, the new videos that I put out, they're slowly adding to that over time. But even if I completely stopped making videos today, all those old videos that I made would continue to earn me, somewhere between like $5,000 and $7,000 a month. Um, and so I consider that to be passive income, even though I am continuing to work on the YouTube channel, because the work that I'm doing today is really for the future, not for today.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
yeah, and
yeah.
the other reason why I would say it is passive is because I would be doing that work even if I wasn't getting paid in that way, because it's how I market my business. And so it's pulling clients into my business. So really, I'm making the videos to get the customers, to make the money from the customers. And so that money that YouTube is paying me is just gravy.
Yeah, totally. That's just amazing. So, what kind of resources really helped you along the journey? Do you have some recommendations?
Yeah. I would love to tell you I had some amazing resources. I feel like the resources didn't exist, or at least I didn't know how to find them when I was first starting out, and so I really built everything from scratch. Let's see. I mostly was just studying the algorithm so intently, studying other people's channels. I would say if you want to be a successful YouTuber, one of the best resources honestly is just YouTube. Watch YouTube a lot, and if you don't like watching YouTube a lot, you might want to pick a different platform, really, because it's it's easiest to do well on a platform if you enjoy the platform and you want to spend a lot of time there. So watch YouTube, see what you like about the videos that you like, think about what you don't like about the videos you don't like, and think about how you can incorporate the positive elements into your own videos, um, and see which videos are doing best on the platform. That was just where I started. And then as my marketing agency grew and I had more of a team around me helping me, then I started employing their help also to really study the algorithm. And we ran a lot of tests on the algorithm and did a lot of just analysis of other channels to really figure out exactly what did best on the platform. So that I could make sure that when I was taking the time to make a video, my time was being well spent and I was making a video that was actually going to do well.
Of course, yeah. So, do you still have a last key takeaway, a personal insight that helped you grow and you would like to share?
I would just say that if you look around on YouTube, if you enjoy watching YouTube and you look at different channels, that you will be hard pressed to find a channel that is producing good videos on a consistent basis and is not growing at a pretty good rate. And so I think that that is just the most encouraging thing to anyone who is thinking about starting a YouTube channel or who is trying to start and they're wondering, why isn't my channel growing? If you just make good quality videos on topics people are interested in, then it is almost guaranteed that you will eventually be successful.
And how can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can look me up, Gillian Perkins, either on YouTube or go to gillianperkins.com. I also post on Instagram a little bit, but my main platform is definitely YouTube for sure. And then they can find out more about the different programs that I offer on my website.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of these great tips. And for everyone who's watching or listening, we would love to hear from you what your favorite takeaway was from the conversation today. So make sure to let us know in the comments below the video.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I publish videos every week that will help you grow on your entrepreneurial journey and that will motivate you to follow through on your dreams. So make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of my new videos.